funeral, procession, and burial here in downtown Pikeville. The funeral wrapped up probably about 30 minutes ago, and now we're seeing the procession come down Hambly Boulevard. This is Steve Hensley along with Neil Middleton. And a lot of people have filed out of the funeral and have lined Hambly Boulevard. It's going to go down through several streets in Pikeville before the burial service, which is the burial is right above us here, overlooking the police department. Many people have lined the streets, regular folks, officers from all over, to watch this procession. So we're just going to pause now and let this play out. Steve Hensley back here with you live, and the procession is over from our vantage point here on Hambly Boulevard. I'm going to shoot the camera around so you can see the other direction where many officers gathered on the side of the road to salute as the casket and hearse went by. We understand the procession will go down some more streets before moving up to the cemetery for the burial. So it's going to probably be another few minutes until the procession makes its way up to the cemetery, which is overlooking where we are right now. And we are standing right next to the Pikeville Police Department and the area where they've had his cruiser out, Officer Scotty Hamilton's cruiser, where people have left mementos and memorials for the last few days. Neil, I believe we have a shot of the cemetery right now that you're seeing where the burial ceremony will take place. Neil, I'm just struck right now how quiet it is. It's just eerily silent right now. Everybody paying their respects to this man.
You have several thousand people that have lined the streets here, and you're right. No one is really talking. They are paying their respects as the procession went by, as the hearse went by. You mentioned that the officers all saluted, and I noticed numerous people who were putting their hand over their heart as a tribute and as a pledge. But it is, as you mentioned, eerily quiet. The officers there are standing in the middle of the road, facing the cemetery. I'm sure they'll be going up to the cemetery here in just a few minutes. You hear the bagpipes. The bagpipes at the cemetery are starting to play now.
And we were talking earlier, there's nothing like the sound of the bagpipe at events like this.
Well, it is. It's a tradition, and there is just something about that sound that brings all of this home. This has been such a somber day, but such a wonderful and beautiful tribute to this officer.
Again, if you may just be joining us, why I'm whispering is because people are still lining Hambly Boulevard here, just taking this in. I've seen a lot of kids here, people of all ages, many of which have never seen anything like this in their life in their town. And as tragic as this situation is, it's been so heartwarming to see so many people come together to pay tribute to this officer, Officer Scotty Hamilton. This is Steve Hensley again from downtown Pikeville along Hambly Boulevard. I believe what you're looking at now, in case you're just joining us, the procession is underway to the cemetery for Officer Scotty Hamilton. You're looking at a picture of several lines of officers from, it looks like, all different agencies, and they are looking towards the cemetery. The cemetery is up on a hill which actually overlooks the Pikeville Police Department, and the procession is still on its way to the cemetery. case you're just joining us, Steve Hensley here in downtown Pikeville. We are awaiting the burial of Officer Scotty Hamilton. The procession is still en route to the cemetery. We understand it is getting close. I believe you're looking at a live picture now of the cemetery. We are standing on Hambly Boulevard where we are looking up at the cemetery, and several lines of officers are also in the middle of Hambly Boulevard looking up towards the cemetery too. It's very quiet and respectful here as people await the burial of Officer Scotty Hamilton. The procession, in case you just joined us in the last few minutes, has already come through where we are. It's gone up and down several streets in Pikeville before going up to the cemetery, but we understand it is getting close to the cemetery, and we are going to stay on the air here on Heroes and Icons at WYMT.com through the burial ceremony. Neil Middleton is with me now. Neil, your thoughts right now?
Well, Steve, they have, for those that can't go up to the burial, they've set up speakers down here, and that way the people down here on the street who are wanting to pay their respects will be able to participate and hear and listen to the service there at the graveside. But obviously that is very space is limited there, and you have thousands down here paying their respects, but they do have speakers set up so that everyone can hear. And as you mentioned, it is very quiet here to have this many people. Really the only thing that you hear for the most part, the flags are at half staff, and you hear it clanging against the flagpole, and that's really about the only sound besides the wind that you hear.
And I noticed a few birds chirping moments ago, which is a sign that spring is almost here. It's a beautiful day in downtown Pikeville. Temperature is just perfect. Clear blue sky.
The sky represents, as you know, they've had the thin blue line there in honor of Officer Scotty Hamilton. The ribbons are blue, and the sky, it's like it's giving its own tribute to this officer.
And I haven't seen many people leave. A lot of these people that you see lining the streets came directly from the funeral service at the Expo Center and have waited patiently down here probably for around 30 minutes now. They watched the procession go through, and now we're awaiting the audio, at least from the burial. We probably won't be able to see everything going on. We'll certainly be able to hear it, though. We've been hearing the bagpipes practicing earlier today. I'm sure there will be a 21-gun salute. Always, some say, maybe the most emotional part of the whole day. And you have the final call, of course. So it's already been such an emotional day, and there is more to come with the burial ceremony. Again, the procession is making its way to the cemetery, which overlooks the Pikeville Police Department, where Officer Hamilton spent around 12 years serving this community. He was only 35 years old, leaves behind a wife and very young daughter, less than 1 year old. And we're just going to continue to watch here as this burial service gets underway shortly.
Yes, thank you. Yes, thank you.
We're breaking away from the cemetery shot just for a moment as the family gets in position. We're trying to give them as much privacy as possible. Certainly don't want to get too close. And what you're looking at now, I believe, is back on Hambly Boulevard, where the officers are looking up towards the cemetery. And it looks like the bagpipes are getting ready to play here in just a moment. But the graveside service is set to get underway shortly. As we mentioned earlier, they've set up speakers down here along Hambly Boulevard, so we should be able to hear the service down here. I don't suspect there is much room. I haven't been up to the cemetery, but it doesn't look like there's probably much room for many people up there, and it's basically just some law enforcement and family up there at the cemetery. But again, very, very quiet, eerily quiet here on Hambly Boulevard, as hundreds have gathered, have stayed downtown for the burial. Obviously could have left, but many, many, many have chosen to stay and watch what they can of this burial ceremony from our vantage point here on Hambly Boulevard. Neil Middleton is with me. Neil, I'm just so impressed by this. I mean, I've never witnessed anything like this in person.
You know, Steve, I really haven't either. Just the outpouring of love and support, the way this community has come together. The service, as we have said repeatedly, was just a wonderful, beautiful tribute to Officer Scotty Hamilton. The fact that these people are lined up along the streets waiting as one final show of support. As you said, it is eerily quiet out of respect for Officer Scotty Hamilton and his family. But I have never witnessed anything quite like this.
And we've seen people from all over here today, all over Kentucky, all over the surrounding states, West Virginia, Virginia, Tennessee. We have officers from everywhere here today paying their respects, and people from all over too. It's just been such a sight to see.
Well, Steve, that's one of the things, you know, a lot of people have come up and talked to us as we were standing here, and they've all said they were from different counties or other places, and they said they just wanted to come and pay their respects. They felt like they needed to.
I talked to a gentleman just not long ago as I was walking down the street, and he stopped me and said, you know, I played softball with him. He was a great guy, and I've not heard one negative comment about Officer Scotty Hamilton since this terrible tragedy happened late Tuesday night. I mean, he sounds like he was just an incredible officer, a credible family man, just an incredible human being.
Well, that's right, Steve, and everyone talked about his integrity, his humility, his dedication both to the police force and the service there and his duty, and the dedication to his family, to his wife and his daughter, and to his brother and sister. Everything you hear about this young man is just speaks volumes to the type of person that he was.
And again, the picture you're looking at now is several lines of officers, and they are looking up towards the cemetery. You can see J.W. Call Funeral Home behind them, and just off to their right a little bit off camera is the police department, the Pikeville Police Department, where Officer Hamilton's cruiser has been set up as a memorial for the last little bit. It's now covered with mementos and flowers and all kinds of things people have left. I've seen many children come by. That's been touching to see many children come by leaving things and paying their respects. This is something many people have never seen in their hometown and hope to never witness again.
Well, that's right, Steve. I mean, you never want something like this to happen. And you know, fortunately in our area, it doesn't happen a lot. But when it does, it's gut-wrenching. And we talked about, you know, officers from across the country. Anytime a fellow officer is killed in the line of duty, it doesn't matter where they're at, how far away. They all pay their respects. They all feel it. It's one large brotherhood. And there have been so many officers from across this state and neighboring states that have come here today to pay their respects.
And there's certainly been a number of shootings involving police officers across the nation in the last year or two. But when it happens in your area, near your hometown, it's just like an extra punch in the gut, I think. It's just, you think, I've heard several people today say, you know, you think these mountains will protect you. It wouldn't happen here. Well, it can happen. Hopefully it won't happen again. But one thing about these mountains, too, is that we all pull together when tragedy happens, whether it's a flash flood or something like this. Eastern Kentuckians always pull together, and we've certainly seen that in the last few days.
Well, Steve, that's the incredible thing about our community here in the mountains and what this city and this county have done. That they do pull together, you know, whether it's times like this, whether it's the tornadoes, the flooding, whatever it is, neighbors pull together and they help each other. And we have seen that. We heard that from Chelsea today at the end of the funeral, where she thanked everyone just for the love and the support that she has felt and her family have felt. And that's not going to stop at the end of the day with this funeral. The hard part begins now for that family. This has been difficult, but the days ahead will also be difficult. They're going to need everyone's prayers, support, and love, and I believe this community will continue to do that. They've said they're going to, and I know they will.
They're going to get that support, no doubt, in the days, weeks, and even years ahead. Law enforcement will always have this family's back. Again, we are awaiting the burial service to begin. You're looking at a shot from Hambly Boulevard as we await the ceremony at the graveside to begin.
Ethan.
This is Steve Hensley along with Neil Middleton live on Hambly Boulevard, where the extremely emotional burial service has just wrapped up. Neil, there is simply nothing in the world like hearing the sound of a bagpipe playing Amazing Grace.
The three things that always get me: the bagpipes in Amazing Grace, taps, 4, the 21 gun salute, and the last call. The last call, just from my earliest days of reporting when I first heard that, it's always been emotional. But you're right, the bagpipes there at the end, that just, and again, not a word was being said down here during this entire time. People were just standing and looking up, listening. A very emotional day, but what a beautiful, beautiful tribute that this community gave this officer and this family.
Absolutely. And it's still quiet down here. People are just kind of silently walking back to their cars, dispersing. And this brings to an end an incredible day in the city of Pikeville, one that will never be forgotten, and hopefully one that we never have to see again in Pikeville or any other town in eastern Kentucky. But as Neil, you mentioned, what an incredible tribute this community has given Officer Scotty Hamilton today.
Well, that's right, Steve. And what I would just say is we're wrapping up here again. It's been a tough week. It's been a tough week for this community. It's been even tougher for this family. Today was emotional, but it was a beautiful tribute to this officer. But I would just encourage everyone again to just continue to remember this family, their friends, these officers here, and this community, and just keep them in your prayers, and continue to love them and support them. These officers, when they put on that badge in the morning and when they walk out that door, they never know if something like this is going to happen. And they put their lives on the line for us each and every day. And I would just, encourage everyone to just continue to lift this family, this community, and these officers up in prayer.
Well said, Neil. That's going to wrap up our coverage. We thank you for joining us. If you've been here since the beginning or if you've just joined us in the last few minutes or so, we want to thank you for joining us as we pay tribute to Officer Scotty Hamilton. We invite you to join us back here at 6 o'clock on Heroes and Icons and WYMT.com. I'll be anchoring the newscast live from the Cruiser Memorial here next to the Pikeville Police Department. That comes your way tonight at 6 o'clock, and we'll devote much of our newscast to an overview of what's taken place here in Pikeville today. What a day it's been. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you again soon.